Great. Thanks a lot for joining in from wherever you're coming from. I've seen the answers from across the world. You're here. So good morning, good day, good evening to all of you. Uh, Today we wanted to talk about, of course, Gen AI has now been around for about 2 years now, and it is already making waves in our industry, right, across development and testing. And we wanted to talk a little bit about how you can accelerate your releases, how you can turn in, how you can ship more software in less time, and that's all it is going to be about. Um, and myself, I am Sai Ram. I work as a product growth manager in BrowserStack. I look at how we can provide value as BrowserStack throughout the test platform for a tester, for a QA, and how we can bring in AI to hasten your test cycles, right? And with us, we have Manoj Jain. Manoj has been a leader in software across testing and development for over 15 years now. And we're very privileged to have you with us, Manoj. If you could just introduce yourself quickly for us.
Thank you, Sairam. Good morning, everyone. Hope you're doing well. Uh, Thanks, Sairam, Pranav, and ProwserStack for providing this opportunity. So, just a quick introduction about me. I've been in industry for 25 years. Started my career with the quality engineering. That has been my passion, and worked with various organizations. Have worked on functional, non-functional aspects of the testing the enterprise apps and various domains, document management, banking, finance, e-commerce, enterprise worlds. So there were different flavors for all of these enterprise worlds. So got to see various challenges and how we can deliver high quality products to our customers was a very good learning curve while working with various organizations. Currently, I'm working with Extria as Senior Director Quality Engineering, and my chart is to drive quality across all the products that Extria serves to our customers.
Awesome, awesome. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Manoj. Just quick housekeeping items before we start. The session will go on till about for about 45 minutes. It is being recorded and it will be made available to you later. The participants will be muted so that we can have a seamless conversation. And we do have a dedicated section for Q&A towards the end, like I was mentioning earlier, where we'll take as many live questions as possible. So please do enter your questions. Even if we're not able to answer, we'll come back to you with what we think about the answers. So yeah, with that, we can start our webinar. So Manoj, thanks a lot for sharing your experience in testing. I wanted to open with how you have been dealing with AI in QA over the last 2 years. Like what was the start? How you're integrating it in your workflows today?
Got it. Uh, sure. And before I answer this question, I would, as you have already said, that though we have muted the lines, but I would highly encourage participants to type in their questions. So, in a way, we can keep it a dialogue, not just one way. So happy to understand their perspective, their questions, and hopefully we can address all of them. So coming back to the question, I think this era or the wave started 2 years ago, and with the chat GPT as came into existence, and each one of us started using that. And while everybody is going through the new era, it was a level playing ground for everyone because everyone was experiencing, and technically the number of years experience doesn't matter. So whether somebody is having 2 years experience versus 10 or 20, it is the same thing because all are learning. uh, Now the question arises that how do we use it for our benefits? And what I've seen that as we started on this journey, many of us were trying the various prompts at GPT and seeing that whether it is giving me some outcome. And what I have observed that most of the people were finding that the responses are not effective, whereas the gaps were related to the what kind of prompt we are writing, what kind of context we are sharing with the chat GPT or the similars of the world, what kind of expectation we are setting. So we were thinking as like an intelligent system that it can provide us a lot of information without any context, but whereas on the contrary, it is like a robot. So if you need to tell something, you need to provide all the context, all the details so that it gives you an outcome which is of your use. I think that is the main thing. So we learned about the prompt engineering. We learned about the various contexts that we can provide. what are our use cases that we want to solve. So having an absolute clarity about the use case is very important. So what we did that within the world of the quality engineering, there are two, three key phases. One is the test planning, other is the test execution, and the automation. Within test planning, you have various sub activities. For example, you need to understand the stories, you need to understand, have a test plan, you need to have the test cases created and review them so that they are ready for the execution. Similarly, on the execution front, you need to execute them manually, you need to execute them via test scripts, and then later you need to get them automated, right? What kind of bugs you are finding, what quality level they are. So all these activities, if you imagine that there are high level activities and they were broken down into the multiple small activities which are atomic in nature. Now look at each of those activities. For example, test case creation. In my experience, about 25% of the overall effort for related to testing a story goes in the just the test case authoring. And we all know that during as we execute the test cases, we get to know more test cases also which get added. Now, the sooner we can have these test cases within an effective coverage, it will not only help the QEs, but it is going to helpful for the developer as well because they know that these are the test cases going to be executed. They can factor them in during the development stage itself.
Right.
So, like this, we had this split of various sub activities: test case generation, test case reviews, test synthetic test data generation, and bunch of other activities where we focused on them, write very detailed prompt, and within those prompts also the context has to be there about the product, about the domain. It
Hmm.
should not be a generic prompt that one generic prompt will help the product for all the nature, right? A prompt for a data warehousing ETL project is a lot different than a banking product versus an e-commerce product. So
Yeah.
what kind of details that you are furnishing to the LLM, what outcome you are expecting, and what are the guardrails that are expected while you are providing that prompt is very important. So we worked through these various use cases. We implemented these flows. Team started using them, and there were upside we saw in terms of efficiency as well as the more perspective that we were receiving while using these tools.
Got it. Got it. Awesome. Thanks a lot for that. So if you were, if I understand correctly, you go through the workflow of a tester and you're trying to identify what points can be improved by Gen AI, and that's what.
Correct. Correct. So virtually walk through the day of a tester that in a day, what tester do, what activities do they do,
Yeah.
what is an impact of those activities on the overall life cycle, if you know how it can generate either in improving the efficiency or effectiveness of that activity that they are doing.
Got
If
it.
we keep it at a very high level, it will not be impactful for sure. So you have to identify specific activity and what outcome you are expecting via usage of LLMs is very important.
Understood. Understood. Folks, there's a quick poll question on your screens if you can answer that as we go on with this. So yeah, thanks a lot for that. Even at BrowserStack, that is how we are approaching AI solutions as well. We want to identify what jobs a tester would typically do through their testing lifecycle and address them, because then your solutions are constrained to
Yeah,
what you're exactly solving for, right? It's outcome based.
it's outcome based.
So I heard you also mentioned generating synthetic test data, right? Test data generation for checking your applications. I wanted to understand what you use for this and also how you, make sure that this data is realistic enough. And also, privacy is also an issue. It has to be fully anonymous, right? So on that, if you have any thoughts.
Absolutely. So test data is one of the key ingredient while we develop a good software, and especially in the enterprise worlds, right? And for all the compliances, it is not recommended as well as not possible that we can use the production grade data. Some teams try to use masking the data and use that, but it has its own pros and cons, so better to avoid that path, right? So the next option comes is the synthetic test data generation. Now there are various domains, there are facts, there are dimensions, what kind of data we are using, and we need to simulate that data.
Hmm.
Now, for any test data, one, we need to have the clarity about the domain knowledge that what kind of data it is, why it is being used. So it cannot be a black box. So the person who is working towards generating test data, they need to have clear understanding about the data that they're trying to generate. Otherwise, there would be some entries in the CSV file, but you won't be able to relate them. Second thing is the rules around those data. So every data, whether it is fact or dimension, like master data or transaction data, has certain schemas. And within those schemas, there are certain rules that apply. For example, a zip code in India has 6 numerals, whereas in US it is 5 numerals, right? There are certain standard systems. For example, if you're generating test data for Aadhaar card in India or the SSN 9 in US, right? Aadhaar has 12 words, 12 characters, right?
Yeah.
And then in between there are hyphens. How do you provide those patterns? So, so understanding about the data that you are generating, the schema it has, and what are the guards related to that data. And the last but not least is the referential integrity between two data sets, which we call it as a domain. So if you have a customer ID that is being used in the transaction data, that has to be within the map of the master data that is available. Otherwise, this data will not be useful. It is just bunch of entries in the database. So we use something called CTGAN,
Right.
generative adversarial network. It is very common tool. It uses various approaches to generate the data. We can use now the new tools that are coming in, whether it is cursor or LLMs, various interfaces. You can provide that, but this is one of the CTGAN utility that can be used. So what it takes, so it takes a sample of a file that you want to generate. For example, you are trying to generate a transaction data. You provide a sample file which is having, let's say, 50 records, anonymized ones certainly. You have a rules which are already defined, and then the schema and the rules that are defined. Then you
Right.
can provide that I want to generate, let's say, 100,000 rows out of this data.
Hmm.
Then once you do that, it will give you a complex, try various combination and generate within those rules that data that you can use.
Hmm.
Second part is that this can be also extended to use for a couple of more use cases which are very relevant. One is, if you want to generating data for probably most of us in English is very easier. But what
Right.
about if you want to generate this data in Chinese or Japanese language? Right? It's not easy. Uh, so the CTGAN also allows you to generate data in the localized languages so that you can test your applications. And I'm sure the many of us who have worked in the on the localization testing or international testing would agree to this. Is that many a times functionality work with the English characters, but as you enter the double byte character, then you will run into issues.
Yeah.
The issues could be related to either saving of data or retrieval of data, or maybe it is working fine, but the display is not working fine because the double byte characters take more width on the screen, and then there are truncations.
Yeah.
So the other advantage is that you can use this data to generate the localized data in localized characters and then test that. So the advantage is that if you're testing in double byte character, the most likely it is going to work in the English, but not vice versa. Right? That's the biggest advantage. The other advantage is that you can extrapolate this data to generate for the volume testing or for your load testing. So you may say that I want to generate a file which is of 5 GB that I can use it for my performance benchmarking. Now you can do for volume benchmarking or you can do for the load benchmarking, because for the load testing also you need to have certain base data matching the production data, load of the production data, so that you can mimic those conditions. Otherwise, doing a testing on an empty database does not help. So in summary, CTGAN is the tool that we use. There are similars that are available, but we found this very effective that can be used. Again, a knowledge of the data domain, what constraints are there is important, and then getting that data validated once it is generated with the SME.
Got it. Understood. Thanks a lot for that. So, but just wanted to take a moment because there are some similar themes of questions coming up in the Q&A panel about how QAs can leverage Gen AI, like you said, for manual testing in specific, and how prompt engineering now has moved beyond, say, the development world to help QAs as well. and you've been talking about that constant over the last 10 minutes or so as well. So if you could tell us about manual testing in specific. So automation scripts, of course, we've seen Cloud Code do it. We've seen other tools come up with it, right? So manual testing specifically, how does this factor in? How does Gen AI and prompt engineering, in the next 5 years, how do QAs look at their roles evolving?
So there are two aspects to this question, and I'll share in both the perspectives. So one is specifically about the manual testing part. Now, I think my understanding is that we should move away from the just the manual testing part. We should look at the testing, that what is the objective of this exercise, and then who is going to do that. Now, what does that manual testing contain, right? You need to write the test cases, good test cases, which is covering the functionality that you are testing. One. Second is you need to execute them. And the third is that when the bugs are coming in, you need to see that, they should be well prepared, having the right assessment. Among these activities, the test case generation is very vital. Now, as a manual tester, I can go to an LLM, provide the story details, and generate some test cases. Now, it has to have the context. So, for example, you can write a very good prompt and provide the story details, and it is going to give you certain test cases. Now, how do we ensure that they are enough? So, you need to build up certain automation, for example, using the RAG. Now, it has to have the context of existing stories that are there in your organization, whatever tool you're using. It needs to have the context of the existing test cases that are there. And if we provide these two information while generating the test cases, as we approach LLM for requesting new test case generation, the effectiveness will be much higher, right? You could certainly do without them also, but the effectiveness will not be there. And the key is to achieve that effectiveness, that can I rely on the coverage based on the test cases which are being generated. So my view would be that we should not be looking at just in isolation that I provide certain prompt with story details in an LLM and use that.
Yeah,
Build your RAG pipelines, build your automation system in place so that it has a better context of the domain that you are using it, then the effectiveness would be much higher. Now, as a next step, and one can easily assess that if you provide those prompts and its story details, let's say generating 30 test cases, we need to do a human review of those test cases also, that how relevant they are. It certainly be not possible that those all 30 test cases would be effective. Some
yeah,
are already existing in your database, so you don't want to create them again, because then it will unnecessarily increase the count of test cases in your repository, which we don't want. And then whatever test cases are coming in, we need to know among these 30 test cases, how many are new, how many are existing one, and how many are non-relevant for this story testing, right?
right.
So that's the answer for how manual testers can leverage that. And then they can always use, if they detect a bug based on those symptoms, they can use LLM to assess that whether I should be marking this as a what priority it should be carrying. One of the things that I have observed in my experience, that many a times that bugs are already reported by QAs, but since the priority was not appropriate, the product went into the market or in production, and then when it comes from a client, then they'll get fixed. So having the right prioritization of the bugs is also important, so that they surface in the required dashboard, release go no go criteria, and they can be acted upon. So if a tester has a doubt that whether it should be marked as high priority, medium priority, critical priority, they can always use LLM also to share that perspective.
Yeah. Got it. Understood. So that makes sense. But also, you were earlier mentioning about load testing and performance testing, right? Have you used AI in any of these? Because I'm a little bit curious. I haven't explored that part yet.
So yeah, absolutely. So one is the test data part that I mentioned you,
Yeah.
right? The other aspect is that if you have access to the code, for
Hmm.
example, you're using your IDE, which is AI enabled. It could be, for example, Codeium, Windsurf, Cursor, Cloud Code. That if you have the access to the code, and if you provide a good prompt, the prompt can read your code and then extract the endpoints. So
Hmm.
it will extract the endpoints automatically. And if you go further one step ahead, then you can ask them to create the sample JMX file, which are JMeter files for various load purposes. So you
Yeah.
can have for the endurance test, you can have for the spike test, load test, volume test. So that's how you can expedite that. So as a tester, while we focus on the performance load testing, it is also important that what area we are hitting from the load perspective. It cannot be a black box. Unlike the functional testing, it has to be a white box. Many a times, we end up generating the load, but the load is not going further because we don't know the architecture behind it. It is getting served from cache, so that even the load is not going to the database or the right component that we want to test out. So finding various endpoints that are being used as I invoke a functionality is important. And we can use these AI tools to fetch those all endpoints, automatically generate the JMX file and execute them.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Understood. Cool. Awesome. Thanks for that, Manoj. We have another poll question for you, actually, that will come up on the screen. You can answer it as we are continuing with the discussion. Manoj, I wanted to ask you what barriers you've seen from your teammates or from your colleagues in adopting AI. There are questions coming up about privacy, security, fears about using AIs or using any AI tools or LLMs for that matter. So have you seen any barriers like that, and what did you deal with it as a leader in your org?
Sure. Uh, so I think the foremost thing is the learning curve, right? Um, there are a couple of things. So one is the learning curve. So one has to invest time in learning about the prompts, the capability of various LLM models, because all these LLM models have different capabilities. They're used for different purposes. The what are the contexts we should be providing so that the effectiveness of outcome is good. As I said in the beginning, that many of us just try off with a basic prompt, see that the outcome is not effective, and then leave it there. So it is an iterative process. You need to keep working on that, either improve the RAG pipeline or improve the prompt, or you know, how do I improvise it that the outcome comes closer to the expectation. And expecting it 100% correct at the beginning would be an unreasonable expectation. So you need to see that what is my cutoff, that if it is doing my 80% of the work as per expectation, it is good, right? It going with the Pareto. So if you are able to save your 80% effort, you are good. So that's one. So which is called the learning and getting up to speed on that. Second thing is, just getting engrossed with the day-to-day activities. So you walk up to somebody, you say that, okay, have you tried this? And they say, or have, project deliverable. If there is a shipment which is going to go next week, so we are busy with that. And we all know that going to be an everyday job, right? It was there 10 years ago, it is there today, and it will be always there. So how do I carve out time for making me, up to speed on this front so that my job that I'm doing manually can be more efficient and effective? So otherwise, this is always a catch 22, that you would be always focusing on the urgent thing, but not the important ones where you're going to go it forward. Third thing is the coming closer to the coding. So if you look at it from a developer standpoint, right, there are various personas. From a developer standpoint, they will always be doing the coding. And if such tool comes, it makes their life easier because it is auto-generating code, it is giving them lot of input, so it becomes faster. Among the QA fraternity, there are many people who are, just doing manual testing. There are a few subset who are on the doing the functional automation, so they're familiar with the code, so they find this tool useful. But the people who are purely on the function testing, they find it at times overwhelming, because this, at times you need to understand the prompt, and then this prompt is generating a test code for you. Now, it is again the test code may be a black box for you. So what is this method is doing if you need to make those changes? So, and we always know that it always takes an effort to write first hello world program, then go to the coding. So many of us drop the ball by just, writing for a hello world program. So the way the industry is moving is that everyone, each one of us has to come closer to the coding. The closer we are to the code, will be much more effective in the any work that we are doing. And now even people are talking about having the unicorns with the couple of people in an organization, right? So one CEO or one person company becoming a unicorn with the users of these tools. So these are the 3 points I would say, uh, are the deterrents or the challenges that the someone in the QA field may face.
Got it, got it. Now, like the next question actually follows from there. So, a lot of folks are adopting Gen AI tools now. There are open source tools available. People are building on their own as well. What do you envision as some pitfalls, something we should be cautious about as we're integrating? I know we spoke about uh, validating the data that comes in, about security, etc. What are other functional pitfalls that we should be more aware of? See, I don't believe that AI assisted testing will take over and make automation testing obsolete. I don't believe that. And you being in the industry for 20 years now, you're at a better place to answer that. But considering the human input and how much AI is going to help you through these processes, what are the common pitfalls that you should be more aware of?
Right. So the technology is evolving very at a rapid pace.
Yeah.
So from the testing world, or the common pitfall somebody may see is the correctness of the responses, right? Uh, there are tools like which are there to ensure that there is no regression issue happen. For example, Langfuse. So if you have developed a solution today which is using a certain model, and then you generate serving those responses to the customer. See, if we put ourselves in the shoes of customers, any application that we are using, whether we are trying to reach out to customer support in our day-to-day lives or any other application, and if the responses, let's say we are interacting with the bots or the chat clients, and then behind the scene they're using LLMs, are can we trust 100% on them? That is very important. And the same thing applies that what artifact we are producing as a team for quality, we need to also assess on those similar lines. So if I'm generating my test cases, can I 100% rely and don't think that I need to have the manual review? No, we should do that. Now the model changes, there are new models are coming, and if we change the model, which is going to happen, that how's the effectiveness of those responses? So there has to be constant guardrail that wherever we are using, either for the quality engineering perspective or from having features which are in our product, because at the end all products are going to implement the Gen AI based features, are going to use them, and what is the effectiveness of the solution. So there has to be constant guardrail. The moment there is a bad response or not effective, and then it impacts the business, it acts as a deterrent and as a setback. So
Mhm.
that's a one common pitfall. Security you already talked about. I think that's no brainer.
Yeah.
Third thing is about the cost part, right? It in a subtle way, it can, if you don't use the right model, don't use them in a right manner, that can cost heavy money to the customers or the consumer. In fact, for your organization, if you are using certain models, you need to be cost conscious, that which model is good for what purpose. It cannot be silver bullet for everything, because there has a pros and cons. So which model works for us, so that if I'm cautious about the cost at my end, I should be cautious about the cost that a customer has to incur for using certain models,
Mm.
right? So that is the second part. Third part is that as these tools are evolving, right, like agentic AI, using the multiple AI agents, is that how much should be autonomous and how much should be automated. There are certain things can be 100% automated. There are certain things which are autonomous. It's like an augmentation to a human, that if there are any exception, they quickly get to that somebody to a human, and there is an action on that. Right? I'll give you an example. Many companies do use the chat for the chatbot for their customer service, and I'm not sure, but many of us have faced that it keeps revolving around the same option, and then you are not able to reach out to the desired option for which you call the customer care, and you want to talk to somebody human, and then after a few tries, it just disconnects it,
Mm.
and that's like a dead wall, right?
Mm.
how soon, if there is a situation that there is a trigger alert saying that there is a customer who came in, did not could not choose any option, and let me have a human call that person and then find out what what was the issue that he was trying to solve. So
Correct.
I think these are the common pitfall that we should be watching, that eventually touch the human life in one or the other way.
Correct. 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 Awesome, awesome. Thanks for that, Manoj. As we move forward to the next section, actually, we had another poll question that will be on your screen right now. And the reason we're bringing this poll up right now is because there are a lot of questions that I see on the Q&A panel about how BrowserStack is going through with it, right? And it is the same theme as what Manoj has been talking about since the beginning. Like a quick look into at a very high level, someone has asked what BrowserStack is doing with Gen AI, right? So what we have done over the last year and a half or so is we have identified what a regular tester goes through, how their life cycle might look like, and it goes through planning, creating, validating your test cases, debugging, and at these stages, obviously there is executing as well. And at these stages, we have identified certain jobs to be done, we call them. And for each of these jobs, we're trying to identify where Gen AI can help us build a solution uh, around that point. Now, see, a lot of folks have also asked what was the pain point that you're solving for. We are solving for um, addressing a repetitive action or a mundane action that a tester might do, automating that part so that the tester can spend their time in more essential workflows. Like Manoj was saying, like you need that human input to review and send the release forward. We Release cycles can never be automated. Like I was speaking in the beginning, right? We want to ensure the prompt attacks a single outcome, which is why we are trying to understand what are these outcomes that can be solved for using AI, and we're building the same. And there were questions about specific tools as well, such as test management tool in BrowserStack, how it might help in generating test cases and improving accuracy. People have asked us what kind of context the BrowserStack test management tool takes in to enhance your test suite, right? The fundamental advantage that you have with BrowserStack suite, the whole test platform as a whole, is that all the products are connected. We have a test data layer where all the products are connected, and like the AI tool is as good as the data context that goes in. So because we have that context rich data that you have with BrowserStack, we can get you the best kind of results, and that is the cell that we are working on, and which is why all the future products will also look the same. And talking about future products, we Manoj briefly spoke about enterprise testing as well, about Salesforce testing or SAP testing and Workday testing. And on that also, we have another poll question to understand what kind of enterprise tools you guys work with. And the reason we are bringing this up is because we are addressing AI in enterprise app testing very seriously right now, because these are very manual workflows. There were plenty of questions about how manual testing can be addressed with AI, and we are taking this route about how, say, you have a Salesforce app, and you have very unique flows, and the platform itself is very unique, and we want to bring that testing aspect to everyone, make it more accessible to, say, product managers or manual testers, and how AI can come in as well. That's what Manoj has also been talking about, right? About how you can upskill slowly, and there are tools in the market that are helping you do that. And we as BrowserStack right now are building an AI native no code test automation for Salesforce right now. The product is in beta at the moment as we are speaking, but you can definitely reach out to our sales team for all of this, for whatever I'm talking about BrowserStack or about how you can improve your workflows using Gen AI. You can definitely reach out to our sales team, because we are very eager to do a POC with you to show you an apples to apples comparison about how your existing AI solution may not be the best one right now. And maybe in the future it will, and we want to evolve with that as well, because we don't rely on a single model. We are using our expertise in testing over the last 15 years to ensure that the right model or the right prompt is given at the right time. Uh, and only then it is engineered for perfection, right? Because you want to extract the strengths of a certain model at that stage in your life cycle. So do reach out to us definitely, and we will drop in our website link on the chat box, and you can definitely reach out to our sales team. We want to speak with you, want to tell you how best you can use BrowserStack for manual testing, automation testing, AI assisted testing, and across web and mobile applications. We have a low code tool as well. We have accessibility testing as well, visual testing as well. There were questions about how AI can help in website testing, about performance testing. We have a performance testing tool as well. So do reach out. We have a big platform of products that you can use. Thanks for that. And uh, Manoj, I just want to quickly check the questions panel and
Sure.
come back if there is any other relevant question. Um, Okay, there was a question about demo and walkthrough. Unfortunately, that is a little bit out of scope for us right now, a demo or a walkthrough. And we do keep tabs on BrowserStack events. We will have such similar events as well. And it is good that these questions are coming up. It will help us curate what we want to talk about and what we want to show in the future for this. Manoj, quick question on, so we spoke about performance testing, manual testing, automation testing. Multiple questions had come up about security testing as well. How Gen AI can be used in security testing, and if it is advisable at all. Really want you to throw some light on this because we have not explored that yet.
Yeah, yeah. Certainly, again, that it comes from there are two kind of testing you do in from the secure coding perspective. One is the called the DAST, which is the dynamic application penetration testing, which is a pen test also called as. Other is the static code analysis. So there are tools like checkmarks, sonar cubes, which use that. You can certainly elevate this level via scanning your code using LLMs to check for the vulnerabilities, right? Again, it is based on a pattern that the way the code has been written, you can find out that if there are anomalies, if you're not using any of those standard tools, you can always validate your existing code with against these guidelines and then see if there are vulnerability that you should access. For certainly penetration testing, you have to use another tools, and again these respective tools are also building their Gen AI capabilities, how they can be more effective. But I think the quick point could be the scanning your code. If you have access to the code, write a good prompt, mention about the common patterns that are there, and then all these tools like SonarCube, checkmarks have certain rules against which the existing code is assessed. So that's how you can use them as well.
Got it. Got it. Got it.
The
Understood.
other thing you can, sorry, that I recollect is that if you have access to the logs of the application, you can use these logs or to LLM. Again, assuming that it is a secured account, not like on a public available. Provide those logs and then see if this has something sensitive information which should not be printed in the logs, right? Things like that. There are compliances which via which you cannot have certain data in the database stored, so you can always scan those database entries and then see if there is anything vulnerable, logs, databases, and things like that, right? So again, the point comes down to the specific use case that you're trying to do. LLM has capability. You need to just marry them together, that this is my exact requirement and that's how I want to use it. Because security testing involves so many things.
Yeah.
So, right. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. Thanks a lot for that, Manoj. There are lots of BrowserStack specific questions coming up. Um, Does BrowserStack Test Management have an ability to generate automation test scripts? We are building this feature, but it already exists in our low-code automation tool. Please do visit that. On the chat, we will drop in the links, the specific links for this. Do explore the navigation bar for this. We're building plenty of tools for your uh, for your workflows. open source AI tools, we have already spoken about that. Security testing, we have spoken about that. So yeah, I think Manoj, we have covered the major themes of questions that have been coming in. Of course, there are more on this, but we want to come back to that as a summary to address as many questions as possible. We will do that with the help of our organizers for this webinar today.
Sure.
With that, I think we can go to the next slide. We do have a growing Discord community with developers where you will get one-to-one answers. We have an active team answering questions directly. Please do scan the QR code, take some time, come on to the Discord, connect with the developers, the testers that are there, so that not just BrowserStack solution, right? You can share whatever open source solutions that might be there and what are the companies that are doing really well in this domain. Lots of engaging conversations over there. And the next for joining the session. Thanks a lot, Manoj, for giving your
Sure.
time. It's very valuable. And someone with your kind of experience to give us that valuable. You've seen manual testing, you've seen automation testing, and now you're seeing AI assisted testing. And
Yeah.
it was brilliant to do that. And I myself, I'll connect with you on LinkedIn personally as well if anything like that comes up for us. Thanks a lot for joining, Manoj. Thanks a lot, folks.
Sure.
For
Thank you.
see you guys. Have a great day.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.